hopefully you'll go home a little bit more educated on what it is that we're trying to achieve. So yeah, quick show of hands. Who's heard of Ethereum? Hey, okay, good. No one got lost. Who's heard of Polkadot? Okay, a few people. Cool. Who's coders? How many of you can code in like PHP doesn't count? Cool. Okay, about half. So I'm going to try and keep this talk like non-technical. I don't think it's actually going to be that beneficial to go into the technical stuff. If you want to know, ask me some questions at the end. I want to really sort of get across basically the goals and where it fits into what my worldview is and how we at Parity generally see the world going. Okay, so yeah, how did things begin? Well, I'm going to cut out most of history. I'm going to say in the beginning there was the web. So we need to really understand what the web is. What does it do? What's its job? What's it there for? Now I'm gonna make a point that the web is basically access, and it's access to information. Okay, so it's an information access invention mechanism. And we see some of the stuff on the web, and we can sort of understand that it's there for information. So it's like we get media, we get the news, we get the websites, we get people's homepages on what they are, what the system is providing to them. And these guarantees in some sense.
I just want to show you, he's been everywhere talking about this since the beginning. He didn't just walk out and boom, $4 billion market cap. It was kind of like that, but not really.
Hi, I'm Gavin Woods. Thanks for joining me, taking the time, and thank you to
Ray little clips. I've seen them all,
great conference that they put together.
Just so you can get the real.
I plan to detail the Polkadot launch plan for you today, but first, maybe it will be nice for us to give you a little video of how we got to where we are today.
I'm watching the big screen over there.
We were just kind of thinking how we could maybe create the next version of Ethereum if we sort of had a green field to design upon.
Canary in the coal mine, Kusama, that shirt he's got.
So we already have technologies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are able to, in some sense, disintermediate many of the middlemen, many of the institutions and authorities, and remove the need for much of the trust in society. But what we currently have is a patchwork of, if you like, independent and isolated legal systems of the internet. And this is problematic because it creates many different groups who, although they share the same vision, have misalignment in how they wish to achieve it, creating borders where borders don't need to be there.
We have this great new technology that is allowing us to automate one of the sort of very fundamental aspects of an economy, which is trust, right? Which is this idea that I can have reasonable expectations of what's going to happen without having to trust someone.
I promise to do videos like that when I'm $4 billion, not before. I'm kidding. I love it. Look at that. That's his office.
That was a general idea back in 2014 when we were starting Ethereum, that Ethereum 2 should be being under development by late 2016, and here we were sitting around in autumn of 2016, and there was absolutely no indication that there was going to be any development, significant at least, on Ethereum 2 for some time. So really we wanted to push forward with that one way or another. let's embark on something that we think will be complementary to Ethereum 2, a system in parallel that can fulfill things that probably Ethereum 2 is going to be less than optimal at fulfilling. And ideally, that will interoperate with Ethereum 2 as well. So Polkadot is a multi-chain. The idea is that it's a blockchain, but we bundle lots of different blocks up all at the same time that can be executed in parallel, right? So these things can all be executed at the same time. In doing so, we create this sort of idea of a multi-chain because every block is actually lots of different blocks. Then we can, in principle, run 100 times the amount of transaction throughput that just one chain, like Bitcoin or Ethereum could.
Instead of many coins, many
Polkadot
chains.
is, in many respects, the biggest bet in this ecosystem against chain maximalism. Even if there were one perfect chain, I don't think it would stay perfect for very long. I would try to convince people that it's really not such a good plan to be so focused on backing one winner above all others. I have here, fresh from the Apple Store, a shrink-wrapped.
So he pulls open an Apple laptop, downloads Substrate, and then builds his own chain right away. And and I want to do that with you guys. So, and the less you know about coding, that's who I want to do it with. All right, let's see what else. We'll check out a little bit of this, and then that'll be.
It's quite a full one, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to get right into it. This is really about the brave new crypto world. I want to sort of explore a few things, particularly how sovereign chains can interact with each other in this new model, particularly with respect to the new sorts of functionality that Polkadot provides. I think it's reasonable to characterize much of the progression of blockchain from being very currency-oriented, cryptocurrency, over to being more political, more sort of general decision-making oriented. And that's something that I think will continue into the future. I think it's a very interesting trend and one that's critical for society at this stage. Before I get into sort of the main sort of points, I want to talk a little bit about Polkadot, because I think it's only by understanding how Polkadot changes things that we can really understand how the ecosystem as a whole is going to change. So Polkadot is a scalable heterogeneous multi-chain. What does that mean? Well, it's scalable because we have lots of different. We parallelize a lot of the execution, a lot of the transaction processing within Polkadot, and we do so in a way that doesn't really depend doesn't really have a sort of upper limit in terms of its eventual degree of parallelism. It's a multi-chain and it's heterogeneous because each of these pockets of transaction processing logic don't specify the kind of fundamental kinds of transactions. Rather, they leave it entirely open-ended to the underlying team or developer or project, whatever. This gives an unprecedented level of flexibility, much more so than the sort of dynamic resource, dynamic metered model that Ethereum gives, although Ethereum, of course, was incredibly important at the time. This allows for not just the kind of smart contract model, although it does allow for that, but to be used, but also for more fixed function pipelining, fixed function transaction processing to be done that can give much greater performance gains. Now, Polkadot also has an emphasis on governance and upgradability, two critical elements. I think you sort of, I hope to convince you of by later in this talk. So Polkadot's really the first of its kind. It's a platform for creating trust-free systems, not unlike smart contract platforms, but it really aims to give much greater technical guarantees, technical facilities in terms of flexibility, performance, and the underlying security. It's, I think, not tremendously unreasonable to compare the sort of transactions per second. Bitcoin here with realistically, it's somewhere between 2 and 4 transactions a second. I put 5 because it has managed to get up there. But realistically, at the base level, without any tricks, no lightning network, no ZK snarks or start tricks, or, you know, at its basic level of computational performance, which can obviously be increased and improved across all chains by using these tricks. But at the base level performance, we're looking at around 5 transactions per second for Bitcoin, and not very much programmable functionality, about 25 transactions per second for Ethereum, but obviously with much more programmable functionality, although the more you use it, the worse it becomes. For Sama, about 1,000 on its base chain transactions per second, with the programmable functionality being much more highly performant. I mean, this is the programmable functionality that we're looking at. This is using a WebAssembly base layer, which I'll go into in a second. Polkadot, because it has the parachains, and Kusama will eventually have parachains, but I'm sort of talking about Kusama right now. Polkadot, because it has the parachains, will be scaling up to maybe 100,000, up to maybe a million transactions per second. I'll quickly talk about that. How will it do that? 1,000 transactions per second on the parachain, 100 parachains, 100,000 transactions a second. 100 is probably quite conservative. We've done some design upgrades. Probably it's going to be, I think it might get up to maybe even 200 parachains. And there's all sorts of further optimizations that we can do in terms of the database and IO storage layer, the WebAssembly interpreter layer. This is all fundamentally on a meta protocol platform, which means it's upgradable. And also multi-threading. We do aim to bring in multi-threading to this, which will allow much better use of these sort of 6, 8 core CPUs that we're seeing increasingly prevalent. Polkadot is fundamentally upgradable. It's governable, unlike basically most of the chains. There are 1 or 2 that could maybe make this claim as well, but Polkadot does it in a little more style, I think. It's a WebAssembly-based meta protocol. This means that the logic of Polkadot is placed actually on the chain, on Polkadot. Polkadot hosts its own logic. It's a bit of a crazy idea, but there it is. And it's able to do this by using WebAssembly. WebAssembly effectively allows logic, allows the algorithm or the protocol to be described as data. Right, as instructions.
We'll look at that.
And it's used for both the parachains, these shards, these individual parallel transaction processing units, and the relay chain. So the thing that cooperates and coordinates between, that allows these guys to cooperate and coordinate and gives them their security. Because we use a meta protocol, we have seamless upgrades that are controlled by the underlying logic of the consensus, the underlying logic of the chain. So the chain's logic can dictate what the chain's logic changes to, can dictate its own changes. In essence, it has control over its own destiny. What do we call this? I think agency is a really good word, right? Agency is how we describe things that have control over their own destiny. Upgradability and governability changes a chain from something that doesn't have agency to something that does. So what's a token? We need to sort of really dive into this, I think, in order to really understand how tokens are, or token economies are able to interact with each other at a sovereign level. Now, tokens I've seen described, or token economies, I should say.
Right.
It's kind of
That's pretty good. I just wanted to get, some of his videos into this so we could really get, you know, the full flavor of what he's trying to do, you know, where it came from. And this was important because we went through a lot of text and documents and, you know, text to speech, but this way we get to hear the man himself and see those videos, and it kind of puts everything into much clearer understanding, yet we've dived into a lot of information. And I think at the end of the day, everything's going to start, you know, making sense. I mean, we're obviously now, whoever, you know, gets into Polkadot, even if you don't use it towards your business purposes, everybody's going to be, of course, very curious and interested how they do. And again, this is not about saying, oh, they can do a moon or 100x. They already did, right? I mean, $4 billion. Like I said in another part of the video, it's actually dangerous if it goes up way too much. Yes, it has to surpass Ethereum, but hopefully they won't go that high unless that doesn't affect the price of the parachains. Then it doesn't matter how high it goes. So, but certainly from the functionality point of view, that's my point. So I'm not advocating for price up and down. I have no idea where it should be, but it's already at a point where it's a top 10 coin, multi-billion dollars. So it's essentially says, trust me. So I hope that it wasn't too much detail, but that's what we got to do to really understand all of these new technologies coming online, because he himself said it. Dr. Wood, he said, today this one's the best one, tomorrow this other one. So we have to stay mobile, we have to stay interconnected, we have to stay flexible. And what he's talking about in that last video, basically saying that the improvements, the protocol can improve on the fly within the central security, and they can make it happen without forks. And it's really like you're subcontracting the security piece, and they're doing a wonderful job, and the speed and the flexibility, the bridges. So it's really amazing for a real world ecosystem, right? If you're just about speculation, you want to be at the exchanges, I don't know how important it is, but if you've got a real ecosystem like what we're doing, then it's a big deal, because this is going to plug us into everything. And that's the name of the game these days. So I'm excited about NoLimitCoin, about the possibilities, about the importance it's going to form within the gaming coins. And I just want to communicate that to our whole group of holders, community of holders, our community of players, and certainly the investors that have been patiently waiting for the investor pack.